This lesson picks up where we left off, creating the stake survey article. So go ahead and log back into your GitHub account and open the Module 3 repository. And if you need to, restart RStudio and open your Module 3 project. Then open the stake article RMD R Markdown document. At this point, we've configured the YAML header the way that we wanted it, and we've customized the first R code chunk. So this sets up the environment necessary for the document. Let's go ahead and organize the content for the rest of your document. And for this document template, we're going to create 4 sections. We'll have a background section that describes the stake survey dataset. We're going to have a section that describes the purpose of the article, which is to detail the stake preferences by gender within a specific region of the United States. We'll have a third section that provides summary tables for the demographics of the respondents in the dataset. And we'll have a final section that provides a plot of the stake preferences by gender for the region specified. So for this first background section, refer to the read ahead materials to add in level 2 header and paragraph text into your document. You'll notice that there are 2 web links provided to refer your readers to the original journal article published by 538.com on the stake survey. So now that we've added the background section, go ahead and click Save and knit to HTML to see your results. So now we have our header, we have the subtitle, the author and the date, and the background section. You'll notice that I went ahead and deleted the rest of the initial R Markdown template. So as you develop a document template, it's a good idea to make these smaller incremental changes in terms of R code that is added to the document or the sections of the text. After you add an R code chunk or add more code to an R code chunk, or after you've added major sections of text, be sure to save and knit your document. This way, it's going to be much easier to find errors and correct them before you end up with a really long document and then you'd have to try and go back and figure out where all the errors are occurring. Now that we've finished the background section, let's go ahead and put in the second section for the purpose of the article. We're going to cut and paste in what you had from the read ahead materials. So this second section has R Markdown syntax that we've seen before. We have backtick marks around the name 538 for the 538 package, and we have some syntax here for inserting website links. I have also highlighted the word mountain in both bold and italics formatting. Then in the final sentence, there's a short inline section of R code that computes the number of rows of the SStat dataset using the nRow function. When this runs, the number of rows are actually inserted and you won't see the R code in the final document. Go ahead and click Save and knit your document to HTML to see the results. When this finishes, you'll notice that we have a link here for the How Americans Like Their Steak original article. The 538 package is highlighted here. Mountain shows up in both bold and italics, and you'll notice our last sentence says the data subset used for our summary had 24 respondents. That number 24 was computed and inserted into the document using the nRow R code shown here. So let's go ahead and add the third section of text and the second R code chunk from the read ahead materials. So let's walk through this next section of R code. We're going to be using the dplyr workflow that I've mentioned before. It's part of the tidyverse package. We're going to use the pipe syntax, which is the %, greater than %, and those commands are used to add functions on top of each other. That way, you can follow the data processing workflow much easier. In this first set of sequential R commands, we're creating a basic table object called TB. This is made from the SStat data subset that we created earlier in the first R code chunk. To make this table object TB, the age variable, which is a column, is selected from the SStat data subset and then piped into the table function, shown here. And this summarizes the number of respondents who selected each age category. And then that resulting table is then piped into the function prop table that computes the relative proportions of these responses. Each of these proportions are multiplied by 100 to compute the percents instead. After that's completed, the next line of code converts the TB table object to a data frame object. And data frame objects work much better with the knitter cable function. Finally, this DT object data frame is used in the knitter cable function to create a table. And you'll notice that we've added several additional options to the cable function statement. The first one you see here is that we've set the formatting to HTML. The next one, for column names, gives the two columns that we're going to include here, namely the name of the variable ages and the percents that we just computed. Finally, we have an option here for the number of digits, which will display 2 digits after the decimal place. We'll add a caption here that gives a title to our table for ages of survey respondents. Then after the knit or cable statement, we have some cable styling. This was added using the Cable Extra package. And it's going to add some striped rows, and we're setting the full width of the table to false. That way the table will not span the whole width of the resulting HTML web page. So we've added a lot of stuff here. Let's go ahead and click Save and Knit to HTML to see the result. So when this completes, we should now have a new section entitled Demographic Summary Tables and a table of the different age categories and the percents. So let's add the next section of text and the next R code chunk for the second table that summarizes the education levels for the respondents in the dataset. You'll notice that this code is pretty much identical to what we just did for summarizing the age categories above. The only difference is that the variable has changed to EDUC for education, and the column name and caption have been updated. So now that we've added this section and a new section of our code, let's click Save and Knit to HTML to check our education table. In the Demographic Summary Table section, we now have two tables, a table for the ages of the survey respondents and a table for the education of the survey respondents. So go ahead and add the last section of text and R code for the third summary table for the income levels of the respondents. Again, this section in code is the same, except that the code is now run for this hhold income variable for household income, and we've updated the column labels and the caption. Again, click Save and Knit to HTML to see the result. So now we have three tables for the demographic summary tables for ages, education, and the household income of the survey respondents. The next section of text and R code is optional, and you can skip this step now if you wish to do so. Turns out, making tables using R code with R Markdown and Knitr is actually pretty challenging. So this next R code chunk provides an example of how we can merge these three tables that we created above into one single data frame object that we're going to then use by the Knitr cable function to make a larger table. The larger table will have the relative percents of the respondents for each of the categories for age, education, and income all together. And then the Cable Extra styling adds the row striping and adds borders to the table. And we add an additional row of code that uses the Cable Extra function add header above to add another row of column names with the labels of age, education, and income. If you've added this code in here, click Save and Knit to HTML to see the result. So now if we scroll down, you can see that we've added a single table that actually has all of the information for ages, education, and income merged together. So the last section of the document creates a clustered bar chart figure showing the relative number of respondents who prefer their steak prepared via the different choices recorded and clustered by gender. So that way there, the reader can compare the steak preparation choices between men and women. This last R code chunk includes the ggplot function similar to what we created in the last lesson. However, the code shown here adds additional options and layers, including labels for the X horizontal axis and the Y vertical axis, as well as a title for the plot. And the second to last option that we've added here uses something called Scale Fill Manual. And this function from ggplot2 customizes the color of the bar chart and provides some nicer labels for the legend of the plot. The very last line adds some styling by using the theme 538 to the plot. Turns out this function for theme 538 is a function from the ggthemes package. Go ahead and click Save and Knit to HTML to see the result. So now if we scroll down here in the viewer window, we can see the plot that we just generated. And you'll notice that we can see the steak preferences by gender, and again, this is for the mountain region. Now that you've got your steak article R Markdown file complete, let's back everything up to your GitHub account. Go ahead and open Git Bash and make sure that you're in the directory for Rep Templates Module 3. And once you're in here, let's go through the 4 commands again. Type in git add dot to add all of the new files and changes. We'll type in git commit, and we'll add a comment for updates to the stake article document. Click Return. And finally, let's push everything up to the GitHub account. Type in Git status. There's nothing to commit and the working tree is clean. We can also go back to our Module 3 GitHub repository and click Refresh. And we can see that we've just made some updates to our stake article document.